All right, hey everyone. Welcome to an episode of public viewing of the Trading Syndicate, which is a group of amazing traders. I'm sure some of you know who they are, but this is going to be one of the few episodes that is free and doesn't have a subscription paywall. And we will try to bring you one of these every now and then, hopefully more than once a month, but at least once a month. We will do one of these, and I want to introduce some of the traders from the Financial Syndicate. We have Mark Wood, we have Ethan, and you guys feel free to share your Twitter handles as well once we go to screen share, and Leonardo. We have one more. Unfortunately, we had some technical delays, so now it's just going to be four of us and not five. In total, we have six, right, Leonardo?
Yes, that's right. We also have Jimmy, and he's running a lot of the stock trades, which are actually been pretty awesome. Some of the signals he issues remind me of freaking altcoins in 2017. It's like he issues a stock trade and it's like 30% like very quickly. So it's been actually quite nice to have that kind of profitability while Bitcoin is doing what it's doing right now.
Yep, I just got to throw out one more a little disclaimer. Since I constantly do publicly facing free content on my views, I have not had too many contributions to the paywalled financial syndicate. We're still trying to figure out how that could be done because all my views are public every day. So, but there will be additional value to me under the paywall. We're just not sure where that value is going to come. But none of the traders besides me have a public facing free channel. And I've seen all of your success over the last 5 to 10 years. Some of you have been trading way longer than 10 years with incredible success. So I am very happy to be part of the Financial Syndicate. And without any further ado, who wants to go first and show some charts? Don't
Mark,
all rush in at once now.
Mark, I can go first if you guys want. It's totally fine.
Yeah, why don't you,
Yeah,
why don't you,
Leonardo, why don't you go first? Your charts are a little bit unique. My audience are familiar with Mark Wood charts. I've been promising to have Mark Wood for a slightly longer show. Unfortunately, my life's been Bitcoin content lately, but we will get back to doing proper trading videos. Go for it,
Okay.
Leonardo. Go to screen share.
Okay. So I was going to minimize that. Can everyone see everything? Are we good?
Yep.
yep,
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to show today is this is a logarithmic chart of Bitcoin, and it goes back to the very beginning, and it has two moving averages, which have been very essential since the start. And Mark loves moving averages, and in particular, I like these two because you can see here when we lose orange, it touches green, and when we gain orange, we're in a bull market, and when we lose orange, it touches green, and when we regain orange, it's a bull market, with the exception of COVID here, which touched green again for a second time. And same thing last market, lost orange, we touched green, made a bottom, regain orange, was bull market the whole time. And if I'm going to magnify this here, we lost the orange. And once that happened, I told everyone, sell any bounce because green's coming. And on that big capitulation that we just had last week, we just touched green for the first time. And this is happening a lot faster than in the past, which as you can see here, before we actually tried to regain orange again and then finally came down. And this time was very weak. There was barely any touch of that. It didn't even touch the red band above. I called it the Bitcoin banana, which is the logarithmic look of this, declining profitability over time. Mark and I both believe that eventually this will break to the upside and get faster, but for the time being, this banana is being respected. And we touch the bottom part of the bottom banana peel here and touch the green already very early, which has me thinking that we're going to spend a lot of time this year chopping and bleeding down into our buy zones, which are going to be down here later this year. So
so
this here is telling.
can you tell us the price at the very bottom and the price in the median of the green?
Yeah, so the price at the very bottom is 34K, which should be rising towards 37K towards the end of the year. If we were to see a capitulation down to there, which I'm not discounting, and I have some good reasons to think it could happen, not saying it will happen. The middle here is at 48K and rising towards 50K. I think that's very reasonable. And anything there and below is a buy. We've already touched the top here at 63K. If you bought the dip, that's great, but I wouldn't go all in right now. I think time and price both have to come together to form a bottom. And even if we make the price happen, if it's too early, we'll just spend a lot of time in the bottom. And in the past, we spent, we literally had months to accumulate at the bottom green last time before. We entered it last time in June, and we exited the green in March of the year after. At the bottom here, we literally had almost 6 months to accumulate. So when we see a basing pattern that, starts to feel more boring than what's happening right now, this is a downtrend. When we have a basing pattern here, I'm going to get very interested in going all in again in preparation for this. Once the green's regained, it's time to get bullish. Once the orange regained, that's when things get real interesting.
Hey, Leonardo, so
Yep.
what probability do you, I'm assuming the green is a 200 week moving average.
It is not.
What?
Neither of
Oh,
this
it's
is a
not.
standard moving average.
Okay.
Uh,
Well,
yeah, they're both.
but it's close to the 200. It's in that vicinity.
Yeah, it's an EMA. It's not a regular
Right.
moving average.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the chances that we're not going to cross the green? What are the chances that that wick was the low?
I think it's like 2%.
Wow. Okay.
Because I really don't think, because I always say time and price have to come together, and uh, even if price is met, we still have to meet time, and I don't see time happening, and I can show that on my month.
Sounds like something I've been saying for a decade. Price and time.
Yeah, and this is too much too fast, and then we know why this is happening. It's not a secret, I'm not going to get all controversial, but we know that, all that fork stuff that you've been dealing with is probably the reason why this is accelerating down so fast. And I'm going to put it on
So
time
this
for a
is
second here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so this is interesting, right? Because I'm one of the few people that started saying that this fork, debate is helping to drive the price lower. I've been saying it for like a month or two now, because I've been engulfed in this fork debate. But most people don't even know what the hell is going on with the fork debate. So there is a lot of pushback that this has nothing to do with the fork debate. You also independently believe that this drop does have something to do with the infighting with Bitcoiners and Bitcoiners?
I think it's definitely helping move it faster. It was going to drop no matter what. Uh, for those that were watching my Twitter, which I've been in Bitcoin since 2011, but my Twitter is literally not even 3 months old because I created a new account for the financial syndicate. I called this top here within 7 days, and Mark and everyone were witness to that. I said it's time to exit. It's time to take some profits. I said I really don't like the way this is looking. I said time wise, we're running out of time to make higher highs, and within 7 days this began, and I think the fork is helping accelerate it down. It was going to happen no matter what. I was expecting this to chop longer like we did back here, but we haven't. And I think the reason for that is the fork is contributing to the fear. Like fork, Epstein, Satoshi. The retardation levels are like, beyond any FUD that I've ever seen since, I don't know, maybe ever, and I entered Bitcoin, back in the double digits back down here, like $13. So I've seen it all. And at this point, I have to say this kind of decline this quickly is not normal for something that's this mature, and the fork is probably helping.
So
Uh,
I have a couple of ideas also that might be contributing to this. We can show a little bit later, but I've shown in the channel in our Telegram channel a very strong similarity between this current drop down to 60K equating to around May 8th to the May 15th. And it's just a pattern. It happened in the cycle prior in 2020.
mm-hmm.
It's just that drop happened in March, I believe, in 2022, or I'm sorry, that drop happened in May of 2022. Yeah, basically right there, exactly where it
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah, it tagged the blue, which is the beginning of this end move.
So this is taking place in February. So we we are advancing into the bear market down to levels quicker than we have before for a couple of reasons. One is because the price just didn't extend above moving averages, specifically the weekly or the daily 200 simple moving average, as high as it has in the past due to diminishing returns keeping in place. Um, However, there's a pattern we can maybe take a look at later where Bitcoin makes a top, falls, it confirms a lower high. It has to be a major lower high, and then it tests the weekly 21 EMA and rejects. Then what we get is about 4 or 5 weeks and then a capitulation move, which is exactly what we've seen right at the orange moving average on Leonardo's chart up there. Rejection there, one, two, three solid red weeks and a capitulation. So nothing out of the ordinary, in my opinion, is taking place outside of what we've seen from normal cycles. It's just we are a little accelerated, which could mean either a deeper bear market or a bottom sooner than expected. My bottoming date is right around mid-October. But I am open to the idea of maybe bottoming by summer because of how quickly this is moving here.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would still think it would chop into October and like give us an opportunity to keep accumulating the lows into that, even if the bottom's made early. I was going to put it on my monthly here because I want to show this because this is basically the chart where, when we got up to this area here and we're on this green 7, and we tagged the upper Bollinger Band and got rejected. I was like, we're at month 35. Previous cycles, month 35. Previous cycle, month 35. Running out of time and should take some profits off the table based on time, not just price. And that's when I said that would happen. And I put this red arrow here to the usual buy zone down here, bear market bottom towards 41K. And I never expected this arrow to be so well respected on this downtrend from that top. Usually there's, some moves above it, a test of the 10-month moving average here at 98K. But, we didn't even get that above that, like in previous times. We barely made it to 97 and then began this. And we're only in a red 4. So, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9's over here in July. So it matches with your summer bottoming area. But then I think we mess around inside this green box at the very least for a few months going into October. And then we can come out of it. And that will be month 47, usual bottoming time. We have the scary liquidity gap from this candle over here just below. And that's between 26 to 34. And I could see a wick into that. And that will be the kind of thing that you close your eyes, you buy, and you pray for it to go up higher, which it will. But I think any move into here is an absolute long-term buy. Maybe this fork BS is going to be what generates this kind of wick towards the area over here. What is actually, Tone, just a question. What is the scheduled fork day if it was to happen?
Very early September. But by mid-August, you will know. There is
That's perfect timing for.
Okay, so it's the perfect timing for a very scary move into here, and then we can come out of it. So right now, this red here is my next target. It's 57K. I think that's coming. We already tested the lower Bollinger Band. It's too early, but once we start, close below it, there'll be new lows. Mark and I always follow that. Close below the band, new lows are coming. Once that happens, we'll begin this process over here. There's way too much momentum indicators showing there's lots of time to go on the monthly. The iFish is just a midline, so it's got all this time to go over here. The logarithmic MACD is just fully red like previous bear markets, lots of room to go. Squeeze momentum hasn't hit zero line yet, and when it does, that's when things get nasty. Like over here, when it hits zero line, look what happened. So that's very close. That's 1 month, maybe 2 going into here. So I just think we need to be prepared for shit to get worse before it gets better.
Leonardo, click back on the SCMR because that's something that
the reds.
the oscillator on the bottom.
The squeeze momentum.
There you go. The squeeze momentum. Yeah, sorry. This is something that Tone's audience isn't used to seeing, but I track it. I track it only because of Leonardo, and it's similar to like watching the MACD flip red. We are getting into the smaller areas of green, but there's been zero red so far. And you can kind of look back in 2022. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like a lot of red, many months of red. Which also helps the argument that perhaps Bitcoin is not bottoming in this upper 60 or 60K range, and there's still some more time and lower prices to see.
Yeah, hence my low percentage, and when I see 2 dark red bars on the monthly, you go all in. That's basically my squeeze momentum rule. There's some subtleties that go with it. I like to see it agreeing with the MACD. And when we're in disagreement, they keep either the upside or the downside more limited. But when they're in agreement, watch out below. The MACD is already red. And when this thing goes red, watch out below. And then when they start turning around, watch out above, and it'll be a good time. But for the time being, it's too early. Hence my very low percentage possibility of this being the bottom. I just don't see it. I need to see a lot more. This is the SCMR indicator, which not many people use. You need to see a lot more red and then a blue reversal before I can even call a bottom. And then I need a confirmation reversal candle like this one to actually be convinced that the bottom is actually in. And that's going to take time. And price and time have to meet that requirement. It has not happened yet. So that's the long-term stuff. I think I'm going to stop here and pass it over to the rest of you guys, and then we'll have some commentary on that. Hopefully, Tone like that.
Ethan, why don't you go next?
Sure. 1 second here. All right. Yeah, pretty much in agreement with everybody there on the low not being in there. I'd probably go a little higher than Leonardo, and I'd go with maybe 5% instead of 2%. But even looking at this, you guys can see my chart okay here?
Yep.
My screen? Yep. So, yeah, looking at this here, so far the bounce, we did have a big bounce from that 60K low, but it's not that big, and it's been kind of weak the last few days, so it doesn't really look like a bottom. On the weekly chart here, I was watching this 100 simple moving average in purple here, and we were really trying to brew up a move off of there, but I knew as soon as this week of January 19th, when we closed just below it there, I was saying I think we're going to accelerate down, and that's exactly what we saw. And then we've got the 200 simple moving average down here in blue, which I guess we front ran a little bit here. But yeah, it's hard to see this getting any kind of meaningful reversal here. I'm seeing a lot of resistance at 79K here if we do get a bounce. And I don't think we get much over that if we do get some upside here. And then also looking at the MRI indicator. Yeah.
There's a pretty simple rule that Bitcoin has followed. You've got that purple 100 SMA, and literally every time that is lost, the price has gone to the 200 SMA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is that the 300 SMA you have below the 200? What is the yellow one?
That's a 377 simple. Yeah.
Okay, that's the EMA. Okay.
No, it's simple. It's a simple movement average. 377.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So that becomes highly probable if the 200 SMA is lost.
Which at this point, I think we see 42 minimum. I would say for a ultimate low. And I do think we are moving a little quicker, as you guys were saying. So my My timing is more August, September, I think, for a low, at least as a base case for me. It might come a little bit sooner there. And I'll just show on the monthly, we were talking about MACD before. And, right here, when we had this bearish cross confirm, it, that pretty much sealed the deal for the bear market for me. And we can see the prior monthly MACD crosses were basically the same. The top was easily confirmed on a bearish crossover of the MACD here. So we're going to need to see that settle down and start to turn around before we can say a long-term bottom is in. And looking at it right now, it doesn't look like it'll happen anytime soon.
The monthly MRI is also lining up, right? The monthly MRI will give us
an
MRI. If we keep going down, the MRI buy is going to come in like July or August, which is perfect because I'm pretty sure this fork thing is going to be resolved. Like we'll know the answer in like before September. Like we will know, just like we knew a few months before the user activated soft fork, we knew that the big blockers were defeated. We knew they're gonna spin off. Like the big fear was already gone, and Bitcoin started to rise even before like any of the activation dates. And if this user activated soft fork does continue to plague the price of Bitcoin, I also think that we're gonna know around July. It's possible people will still be concerned going into the September flag day, but I think by July we will know. Like the low would already be in because speculators panic before the day. Nobody panics on the day if you know the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking August, September for a low before I heard when that UASF date is, and then when I heard it was August, September, I'm going, well, geez, that lines right up with where technicals are kind of pointing right now. So
I want to point something out for anyone that's watching who's never been through this before, is that you absolutely don't take actions based on this, and you let whatever happen. If it forks, you'll have coins on both sides, and then you let it ride. Do not act and sell based on this crazy shit. That's just not worth it. So that's my advice.
Follow the charts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll just zoom into daily here, just to give some short-term view here.
That's ugly.
So yeah, right now it's pretty ugly. So we're kind of bleeding down here. We should kind of see a retest of this low if we are going to get a meaningful bounce up. So where I'm looking short term is the 65.5 level at the 146 Fibonacci retracement here. So I'd like to see this hold on a drop. Don't want to see any closes below there to preserve upside momentum. And, maybe a wick down to 63 or so. You really don't want to see these candle bodies taken out here. I'll just flip those colors back. And yeah, basically on the upside here, we've got 74K at the 382 fib. That is a target if we can get above this 71K level here. That's been, this is pretty telling here, the selling wicks here on the daily chart. So there are a lot of sellers that don't want the price to go much higher here. But, it is possible we see a bounce from here up to the 74 level, but I don't really think we see anything meaningful above this 486 here around 78, 79K. I would be surprised if we see price action above here until a long-term bottom is formed.
Yeah, I actually think that wick is going to get tested. especially on the weekly level, and probably gets tested about 50% of the wick.
So
Yeah, here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think and then when that happens, it's going to be scary.
in the Telegram channel,
Yeah.
Ethan and
Yeah.
I
We
have
should see
identified.
something.
Yeah, sorry. Ethan and
Go
I have
ahead.
both identified 79K, 80K, where he has that yellow fib, the 4.86 fib bounce. We both identified that using completely different tools and ideas as an area of very strong resistance that I would be very surprised to see price above. If we do see price above there, it will be a little bit of a change of behavior from the look back in May of 2022 I was talking about. I can kind of show that a little bit later. But Ethan and I are in total agreement on this. As the analysts in the channel, all four of us rarely disagree, which is good for people who are looking for some really confident ideas. But sometimes it would be fun just to disagree, but we rarely do. Our techniques and our ideas are so similar using 1,000 different tools that we have, which gives me confidence in my ideas as well.
Yeah, same. I was looking at 79K and then you guys started mentioning it as well, and I'm going, well, there's our confluence right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for me. I'll turn it over to you now, Mark.
Okay. Let me just show. I want to just show something really quick here. I love always never scenarios, and I love patterns. I'm a musician. I recognize patterns. It's just part of what my brain sees every single day. I can't not see patterns. Um, and so once you know what a pattern to look for, then you can find when the pattern diverges or when we see something different. So far, I just don't. I see this cycle as exactly the same as any other cycle. I don't think we're off course. We're a little bit ahead with the price dropping, but I'm not seeing anything out of sorts yet. So I just want to show this really quick. We'll go through a quick history of where the bear market bottoms settle. This is a fib that gets taken from a bear market low up to the next bull market high, and it gives us drop zones. 618 is always a golden pocket, and you can see here going all the way back to 2013, 2014, Bitcoin really battled to try to hold that 618 and make a reversal, but it just couldn't do it. And this bear market settled below the 786 and slightly above the 886. The 886 fib is an all-in zone, as Leonardo was saying. Close your eyes and buy. We're going to figure out exactly what that price is soon. Now go to the next bear market, which bottomed. I could alter this fib. Sometimes I like to take the fib more like how Fiboswani uses it and get as many touches on the fib as I can. But I'm just going to keep it simple and go with the lows to the high. And that creates a 786 here at $4,300. As we can see yet again in 2018, Bitcoin bottomed right in between the 886 and the 786. Nothing out of sorts, exactly as would be predicted from the prior cycle. We can move ahead now. Oops, screwed that up. To the 3K low up to the 69K high to find the bear market lows of 2022. And lo and behold, here is the 786 at $17,000. The price dipped somewhere in between there, but stayed relatively close to it. So if this pattern is to repeat this cycle, what price are we looking at for a potential low or a minimum move? And unfortunately, it's $39,000, which Leonardo had highlighted. That was, I'm pretty sure, the very bottom, getting into the bottom green zone of his banana chart. So once again, we're using completely different tools and ideas, but we're coming up with the same price ranges. Now, Bitcoin.
Hey, Mark, wait. Before you go on, right?
Go.
Does it not bother you that the bull run was significantly underperformed expectations? And that's on top of the last bull run underperforming expectations. And I'm not saying like lofty expectations, like our own TA was calling for higher prices in the last bull run. In this bull run, and because this bull run, I guess I'm going to use the term double underperformed if you factor in the last bull run, we are looking at a bear cycle and the low, that's going to be significantly lower than the prior swing high, which has never happened, right? I mean, you can say that the $15,000 FTX low was lower than the $19,000 top, but that's pretty much the same vicinity. Like if we are going down to, 30 something thousand, that's not the same vicinity as 65K from 2021. That's not even in the same stratosphere here.
Right. And so as you say that, Tone, we can present a couple of bullish arguments. And one of them is, okay, Bitcoin did not extend as high as projected. So therefore, perhaps it might get a shallower bear market. So instead of bottoming at this 786 zone, what if Bitcoin actually bottoms somewhere between the 786? I mean, sorry,
Or already bottomed.
I'm sorry, the 618, which is
Right.
basically as tagged. And I'm not surprised at all to see a reaction off there, because when I add the 200 SMA to that, well, it was a perfect storm right
Right,
there.
which is why I actually give this a reasonable probability that the low is in, because if the low is not in, this could get like existentially ugly for Bitcoin.
Yes, I totally agree, Tone. And so I'm still actually with Leonardo. Like I might give a 10% chance that the lows are in, but I am aware of a couple of bullish arguments. And to go along with what Tone was saying, like this 69,000 top, a technical analyst or a trader reasonably was looking into the 80,000, 85,000 K range for this top. And in this cycle, I was very conservatively looking at least 145 to 155. So
Those
both,
were my targets. Those are my targets exactly. I was looking for mid 80s in the last run, and I was looking for between 142 and 162. That was my target. My year-end target was 142.
well, I figured out a cheat code with the Fibonacci's that we've been discussing in the Telegram channel. It's a little bit too complicated to go in now, but it actually called this top perfectly with the timing of Leonardo saying, hey, maybe take some profit at 125K. But let me say this really quickly. I was noticing that as we can see here, let me take the drawings off. So this is a really great visualization or an understanding of diminishing returns. And we can just look at it at how far above the weekly 200 SMA price was at the market tops in 2013. So I went back to 2016 right here in December of 2017, sorry, at 20K. Bitcoin was 1,600% above the weekly 200 SMA. And going over here to the 69K top, it was 300%. So we had a reduction of 1,600% to 300%. And then this 125K top was 140%. So that got cut in half as well. So this is a really great understanding of actual term of diminishing returns, of literally just watching the price get slower and slower, or
Hey,
lower and
Mark,
lower.
Mark, so by that logic, right? Can
Yeah,
you take a look how far below the 200 average we got in the last low and double that?
sure. So that would be, it was about 30%
Right. So
below.
go 60% down. Well, not 60%. Sorry. I wouldn't go by percentage. I would maybe go by nominal.
So let's say 45% below.
Yeah.
Gets it right in between the 786 and the 886, where all bear markets have happened in Bitcoin throughout the course of history, somewhere in between these two MAs. So this is why we believe that a capitulation down sub 40K, even into the mid 30Ks, is not unreasonable. It's not an unreasonable um, idea. The
Right.
bullish,
And honestly, the mid 30Ks is the only one that makes sense with some additional horizontal support from the swing highs back in 23 or whenever that is.
Well, if we look, what there's some strong horizontal support here from July, from like April, May, June, July, right around 30K with some wicks up to 31. There's not a lot of support. This is just basically straight up into the $40,000 range. So we can kind of just take a look at these wicks here.
If I can jump in for just a sec there, that target was around 32K. Is that right?
Yes.
On the yeah. So it's interesting because that's basically where our final liquidity gap is. And prior bear markets have front run that gap, which makes a case for, high 30Ks, low 40s. But interesting that kind of lines up right at 32 where that final gap is, which, could see a fill potentially.
I think
I have
so.
something I want to point out too when you're ready.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So two things, because Tone brought up, the issues with the past two bull markets underperforming. So on the first one, I'm going to point that out. That 69K, that should have gone higher, and it didn't. And when we look back upon it, there's a very good chance that the FTX scam and all those fake Bitcoin shorting that area was the reason for it to not go higher. So when I look at that as the reasoning, that I think that's why we got that. Diminishing returns are happening no matter what, but it needed a reason or like some sort of event to cause that. And I think that was the first one. Now, the second one, I don't think it was suppressed at the top like it was previously. What I think happened was we had the ETF release that produced an all-time high before the halving. So Bitcoin lacked that amount of time to base further and create further accumulation during that time, which can generate a bigger blow off top afterwards. Because, the longer the base, the higher the space. That base was cut short. The space was cut short. Next bull market might be the time where diminishing returns is broken, as long as we can maintain that base. And I think without, the ETF thing and anything else happening, and all this fork fear, I think once we capitulate, we'll be spending a lot of sideways time building a base before the next bull market. And that's going to produce a very good return, especially if we can buy in those low levels and watch it go to 200, 250, or even higher, because it could break diminishing returns. And then things will be very good. So you do want to buy the scariest possible moment when it does happen, because I think the rewards will be very much worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing that we didn't really talk about from a fundamental standpoint is just the silly run that gold and silver went on, which was actually not a surprise to me. I had been watching it in a 10, 15, 20-year structure ready to break out. But that silver and gold literally absorbed $15 trillion from the market on that run, some of which might have flowed into Bitcoin, kind of rotating in and out. But once it was very, very clear that Bitcoin did not have a bid versus gold and gold was parabolic, there just was no demand. And I do think that outside of the other issues going on with the soft fork and whatnot, I actually think that run in gold also took a lot of buying power out of Bitcoin just as it was about to start really making a move up to 150 or 170. I just want to show this real quick to kind of go along with why we're saying perhaps it's just getting started. This is one of my favorite time frames. 4-day, 5-day is about the twist, but we can see a fresh twist right here taking place in May, and that also took place a little bit later in July. So once again, a couple of months ahead of schedule, but we can see that after that twist, the lows have not been in. Bitcoin went significantly lower from 22K down to 15K. And here it is playing out in 2018. We got the flip and the twist at around 6K, and Bitcoin landed 3,050% lower. Yep, we had a cloud back here as well. So this is a really strong signal, and I believe it might be twisting on weekly. No, not yet. Not with my settings. Not with my settings yet. But but 4-day on a chart like this is my weekly. And one final thing I just wanted to show so we can get a good idea of diminishing returns visually is this is just a chart I came up with many years ago with multiples. All these multiples are very random and they're just best fit of prior cycles. And I've altered them a little bit since I've created this, but they're all multiples off of the Black 200 SMA. And we can see in the early cycles, they went above the gray, the very top. The next cycle went to the gray. The next cycle skipped yellow. So again, we got an accelerated diminishing return and actually topped below red. So I was looking into the green. This was my area, and it was looking juicy for 155K right there. That right here is where Tone and I and many others were looking right around 150K into October, November, and it was denied. So this kind of tells me this purple multiple might be the area to watch. If we get a dip down here, this is going to rise with the price. And perhaps if purple gets broken, and for sure if green gets broken next cycle, that will be a great visualization of this idea of diminishing returns, that cyclic pattern breaking. So Leonardo, what probability do you think we'll have of that taking place next cycle?
Very high. I'm like 80% or more.
I
think 160 gets broken. I mean, obviously that's going to rise into the cycle. So I don't know, where is that going to be near the cycle top next time? Is it going to be like 200?
Yeah, probably around mid 200s, 220 something, maybe something like that.
So maybe green gets tagged, but I think purple will be way too low.
Okay. Okay, before this goes on too long, I just wanted to make one other bottoming argument, and it has to do with studying Bitcoin versus gold and gold versus Bitcoin. So one thing that I have been tracking that nobody is really paying attention to, because I have tracked gold versus Bitcoin for years. There are cyclic patterns to find within this chart as well. And we can see here that there is a change of behavior. This is the very first time in history that gold has experienced 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks above the 200 moving average versus Bitcoin. And we've got the silver cross. This is a golden cross to me on weekly. Now we can look back. This cross has happened throughout history. I was noticing today we got this cross in June of 2022, and gold versus Bitcoin topped in January 2023. So that was about a 6-month run. This cross took place in November. So we're already a few months in. What will be interesting to watch is what happens when the yellow 21 crosses above the 200, because if this corrects and bases off of the 200 SMA and makes a higher high, Bitcoin is really going to struggle versus gold. What do Ethan or Tone or Leonardo, do you have any ideas or opinions on that?
I was never too big on this chart. I'm not sure there's much there, unfortunately.
Okay.
I mean, I do see on like random spreads, MRI for some reason works, and I don't understand why it works or how it could work. But well, like for example, the gold silver ratio was like literally hit an MRI reversal when they both crashed, and obviously, silver crashed way more. And I think that was the trade I was talking about. If you want to play the downside of the precious metals, your safest trade is to go long gold and go short silver. Because if they're both going down, silver is going to go down way more. So other than taking on a spread trade, I don't see the gold Bitcoin ratio or the S&P Bitcoin ratio or the S&P gold ratio. I just don't see these ratios as all, in my opinion, all that useful to identify the trend of one of those assets going forward. Only as a spread. But charts like this, I try not to use them to analyze either asset individually. Like it doesn't tell me anything. I can't see the significance. I just can't.
Well, so
Maybe I'm missing something, Mark, because you like these charts.
well, but look at this. I mean, like this is plain as day to me. We got a gigantic sweeping W bottom right here in 2022. This says get out of Bitcoin. Gold is going to trend, and we have the highs of this chart in November 2021, or sorry, November 2022, just below the 200 SMA as Bitcoin USD was bottoming. So as this chart is topping, it is calling the bottom for Bitcoin. And once I started seeing this W form again, I was like, this exact same cycle process playing out again and again and again. I was hoping that the 200 SMA would reject at this cycle and to give Bitcoin a little bit of hope to reverse back to the upside, but clearly it's going to continue. Now, this is a macro downtrend. All gold does was go down versus Bitcoin. It's basically dead if you put it on linear scale. But this swing high is very important right here at 0.111112, because that would be a change of behavior of taking out an actual major swing high for the first time in the history of gold versus Bitcoin. So what I am looking for is, as the months go on, once this chart runs into this area around 0.10, hopefully it will be in the summer months to watch it roll over. Bitcoin might be at a bottom in USD, and then this will roll back over to new lows. That's my projection.
Hey guys, I really have to get going. I have a show with Jimmy Song in like an hour. I still have like 3 hours of preparation to do for it. I have to run. You can keep going. I'll try to, get this uploaded to the Financial Summit as well, but I gotta jump off.
All right. Thanks, Tone.
We can
Thanks,
wrap up.
All right, thanks, guys.
Before we wrap it up, I would just like to show this and bring on the fibs one more time, because this does present a little bit of an argument, a small argument, that Bitcoin might be bottoming at 15K. As we can see here, this is
15K.
Bitcoin versus
You mean
gold.
60K?
I'm sorry, 60K. My bad. I'm moving too fast. This dropped right into the sweet spot. This is Bitcoin versus gold. What this chart is telling us is that today it takes 14 ounces of gold to buy one Bitcoin. At Bitcoin's strongest point, it took 40 ounces of gold to buy a Bitcoin. The bear market in 2022 bottomed at 9 ounces of gold. So this chart has trended right into the 886. So if this can base down here, swim around into the summer, find lows just around this, as that gold versus Bitcoin chart is topping, and this starts to reverse to the upside, I'm going to be bullish on Bitcoin USD, because we got to realize, in my opinion, the run in gold and silver repriced Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has traveled with silver. That switched places in the top 5, top 10 assets in the world. They jockey back and forth very often. And then silver took a run ahead of gold, and it landed at a $6 trillion market cap. In my opinion, that immediately priced Bitcoin at $300,000. Because I still see Bitcoin equally as valuable or more valuable as silver. Would you all agree with that or no?
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with that. I just want to note is that the boom in commodities because of AI is going to make silver demand continue going. Obviously, supply is going to rise up to meet the demand like it usually does. So I think silver will correct. But in the end, as far as an asset that people can do stuff with, day to day or store their value long term, Bitcoin is the superior asset. It's the hardest of all assets. And hard assets and better money always outcompete worse assets and worse money. So that's in the end what's going to happen. But it doesn't mean the silver can't continue running towards 200 before all this is done. It has top for now, but doesn't mean that it can't go a little bit higher.
And so we price it in gold basically now to reach the market cap of gold that it reached, Bitcoin would have to be about $1.7 million. So it basically repriced Bitcoin from $1 million at a 20 trillion dollar market cap to about 1.7 if Bitcoin ever captures gold market cap. So buying at $30,000 or $35,000 is kind of a no-brainer 10x in my opinion, not financial advice. Mm-hmm. It's painful. We don't all want that to happen, but I'm buying. Like I especially if we are going to go break that diminishing returns. I think, Leonardo, it might take the next cycle to break that diminishing returns, but I think with the next 1 or 2 cycles, it's going to get broken.
Yeah, well, I think so. But even when you show the chart with the 200 MA multipliers, I do think that one line is too low and it will break above it no matter what.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. All right. Well, unless there's anything that's pressing to cover, I think we could probably wrap this up.
Yeah, I'm good. Are you good, Ethan?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, guys. That was a great video. That was long. That's our first one that's going to get published. So thanks for everything. I do hope everyone enjoys what they're going to see. And if they want to get, a full dose of what it is that we do day to day with even more detail than we've gone through here, which is actually quite a lot more detail we've gone through here, then go to our website, tfsresearch.com, and subscribe and get on our channels and enjoy the content.
Exactly.
So thank you very much.
Before we go,
thanks a lot, guys.
We're not calling tops and bottoms, but I will say that we called a sell at 116K right after a sell at 125K, and those were the two best sells in Bitcoin to get you out to raise some cash. And that's all we were saying is if you need cash for the next couple of years, this is the place to sell. And the analysts in this group, they're the best in the world that I've ever seen, and the content is so consistent. And our ideas line up so consistently that I trust everything that they bring to the group. It's amazing. Yeah.
Also to know, I called the 97K top and I told people to take profits there. And that was the last exit before it really collapsed below the 100 level. So
100%.
We've done well.
Absolutely. Yes. Good spot on so far. All right. Well, it was great. It was great hanging out with all y'all.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And, we'll see you guys all in the next video.
Later.
Sounds good. Catch you later.